Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you are doing well, or at least enjoying some small part of your day. I know, I feel like I've been really negative about how people are feeling lately. So, if that's where you are, that's awesome. If you're happy, that's also awesome. Right? Don't worry about it. I thought today we would work through some twists and some lower body opening, and in particular, if you have blocks, they're going to be really useful for you today, particularly if you can't, or not can't, but if it's not comfortable to bring your fingertips to the floor in low lunge and half splits, then find something that can bring the earth up to you, whether it's books or tins of tomatoes or I don't know, even a couple bottles of wine, right? Just to give you that little bit of lift. Um, if you don't have any of those things, don't worry about it. I will give you options, but you might want to set up a little bit closer to a wall just for a little bit of extra stability so that you can, put a hand out if you're feeling unstable. Um, and even if you can comfortably reach the floor in both low lunge and half splits, maybe you still want to use blocks, right? The idea is that these props aren't tools for people who can't do yoga. Everyone can do yoga. These props are tools that can make your practice more spacious and make it have longevity. Right? You want to be able to practice yoga for the rest of your life, in theory. I do. I don't want to burn out in a fiery glory of inversions and full splits without using props. Right? I want to be able to honor my body as it is on any given day. And that will allow me, hopefully, to be able to practice yoga for the rest of my life. Okay, I'm off my high horse. Let's start lying down if you're comfortable there on your back, on your side, on your belly. If you'd prefer to stay seated at the start, then you're welcome to stay seated. Once you're down on the floor or even seated, maybe take a couple wiggles or little shakes, massaging anything that needs to be released, and then start to find some stillness. Maybe your legs are extended, maybe your knees are bent. Maybe you choose to take like a butterfly position with the legs. And then maybe let's take a little loop of the shoulder blades together on the back, just so that the chest and the heart can open up a touch more. And then for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then continue breathing however feels best for you. It could be in and out through your nose or your mouth. I get it, especially in Canada, BC, wherever you might be. It's pollen season. So if you're feeling stuffy, just breathe how you need to breathe. Notice where you're feeling your breath. Could be deep down in the belly. Could be a bit higher up in the ribs, or maybe even up in the chest and the shoulders. And it doesn't matter where you're breathing, how you're breathing. Your job here is simply to notice your breath. Which is a very simple thing to do, but not necessarily easy. Because the mind likes to be busy. It likes to jump from thought to thought, like a little monkey. Now you're probably all thinking about monkeys jumping around the place. But the trick is to notice when a thought comes in, or if you start chasing thoughts around, acknowledge that it's happened. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking about that, without judging yourself for doing it, because everyone does it. And then let the thoughts go, so that eventually you can come back to your breath, whether it's for 1 second or 10 seconds or completely unbroken concentration of 20 seconds. And if you notice thoughts again, acknowledge them, let them go, and return to your breath. Last couple moments here. And then slowly start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body, whatever way feels best for you to wake up. Could be a little wiggle of the fingertips or toes, or a big yawn, or maybe an overhead morning stretch. However you need to move. And then start to draw your knees into your chest. If you're seated, come join me on your back here. Maybe take a little rock from side to side. Or you can start to draw circles with your thigh bones and your hip sockets. Maybe they go in the same direction as each other. Maybe they go in the opposite direction. But if you're drawing circles, make sure that you do go both rotations, both directions, so that you balance out the neuromuscular system here. And then start to reach your legs up to the sky. Now, these could be straight or they could be deeply bent. It doesn't matter. Maybe you point and flex your toes or draw circles with your ankles here. You can reach your arms up as well, but let the shoulder blades drape back to the floor, elbows bent, wrists easy. So there's ease here, there's buoyancy. And then maybe bend one knee and straighten the other. And then come back to center. Let's plant the feet now, hip width apart, parallel-ish, close enough into your bum that you can just graze your heels with your fingertips. Right? If one foot's further forward than the other, you can probably notice, unless one arm is quite a bit longer than the other. And then pressing the feet into the floor on your inhale, slowly lift the pelvis and spine up and away. And as you exhale, slowly lower back down. So we're just going to move in and out of bridge for a few breaths. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. And go easy to start with, right? We don't necessarily think of it, but bridge is a pretty big back bend. So just take your time easing into it. It's a big back bend. It's a really great strengthener for the core. And next time that you're up, pause there. Notice what your knees are doing. Make sure they're not winging out to the side. If they are, it probably means you're not using your glutes quite as much as you could. So squeeze the bum, draw the thighs back into neutral. Make sure you're not hugging them too close. And then press the heels into the floor a little bit more. Maybe you lift the hips up a touch more. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly on your exhale, lower back down to the earth. Shake out your legs. And then maybe you grab the backs of your thighs and start to do a couple rocks and rolls up and down your spine if you wish. Shoulder blades to sit bones. Maybe you roll to one side and press yourself up. But make your way to hands and knees. Getting there however you need to. And then eventually sitting up with your knees underneath your hips, toes tucked or untucked behind you, hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Let's move through cat and cow. Inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through your collarbones. Exhale, round through your spine. Tuck the tailbone under, really press the floor away from you. Inhale to dip the belly. Exhale, round. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Maybe there's some other natural movement that would feel really good here. And then feel free to essentially freestyle your cat and cow. And it might end up looking nothing at all like cat and cow. And that is fine. In fact, I encourage that. Really just getting into your own body and moving wherever you need to move. It's a skill that we develop, though, this listening to the body. And then slowly come back to center. Take your right hand in front of the left. Now, it could be quite close, it could be quite far away. It sort of depends on the length of your arms to your torso. And then as you exhale, start to send your hips back. And you can play with a little wag of the tail here from side to side. See if there's an angle that feels extra good for your stretch. You might stay up high, you might come down to a forearm. But breathing now into the right side of the body, getting open even through the armpit, through the arm, way down the back, lats multifidus QL. One more breath here. And then inhale, come back to center, a little wiggle or shake out, and then we'll switch sides. So left hand now crosses in front of the right. Right, again, maybe quite close in, maybe a little bit further away, and then start to send your hips back. Second side can be a totally different experience. So go where you need to go. Maybe take that little wag of the tail from side to side. Maybe you stay up high. Maybe you come down low. You never have to do the same variation or the same depth from one side to the other. We all have different muscular imbalances, strengths, tightnesses. So just go where you need to go. And then slowly inhale, come back to center. Little wiggle, shake, or cat and cow. Okay, step to the top edge of your mat. Take as many steps as you need to get there. And then we'll come into forward fold. Feet hip width apart-ish, right? Even maybe a little bit wider. Knees could be deeply bent, or maybe a little bit straighter. But notice, the more we start to straighten the legs, the more we might start to feel tension in the low back. If you don't, then by all means, maybe have just the slightest little micro bend in the knees, but try not to push the knees back into hyperextension. If you have blocks today, you could bring the floor up to you. Give yourself a little bit more ease here. Maybe you choose to clasp opposite elbows with hands, or even interlace your hands behind your back. You could be still. You could sway a little bit from side to side, really going wherever you need to go. Last breath here. And then release your hands or arms if they're bound with fingertips to your shins or maybe blocks or the earth. Inhale, little partway lift. Pause here. Okay, belly button to spine. Send your sit bones back. Beam your heart forward. Wrap your shoulders onto your back. So we're looking for a quote unquote flat back or even a slight back bend here. But the idea is that because we're hinging at the hips, you don't have to round through the spine to lift up. So send your booty back, beam your heart forward, exhale, let it all go. Couple more on your own time. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold and melt. And then bend your knees, head heavy, arms heavy, slowly start to roll up to standing. One vertebra at a time, as slow as you need to go, till eventually you come all the way up to standing. Couple loops of your shoulders, up, back, and down. Little wiggle, release or shake out. Hi, welcome to standing. All right, let's bring the feet together. Big toe mound's touching. There can be a little space between the heels, and this is really awkward for a lot of people standing here with feet touching. Like my knees want to hyperextend or be bent. It's not good. So let's bend the knees and sit into chair pose. Here we go. Tailbone down slightly to feel your belly button engaged toward your spine. And then use your big inner thigh muscles. Hug the legs toward each other like crazy. Takes all the pressure off the tops of your thighs. Shoulder blades on your back. Bring your arms to cactus. Little squeeze of the shoulder blades toward each other, because why not? Okay, and then make sure that when you look down, you can see all 10 toes, maybe even de-weight them. If you can't, send your hips further back. Hips low, heart high. Last couple of breaths here. We don't usually practice with the thighs touching in chair pose. So, little change. Last couple of breaths. And then inhale, come all the way up. Shake out the legs. Couple little hip circles. And then let's get a little bit of twisting going. Right, nice and loose. You might even speed it up. Get those flopsy arms flopsing. Okay, and then come back to center. Now, you're welcome to continue with toes touching if you wish, or alternatively, take your feet hip width apart. Wherever you want to go, let's sit back into chair pose. So hips down and back. So again, if you're here with feet touching, hug the legs toward each other. If you're choosing to take the feet hip width apart, you don't want to hug the legs toward each other. You want to send the knees out to the baby toe edges of the feet to fire up your glutes a little bit more. And so it's a different sort of activation. I'm going to practice toes together just because I don't do it very often. Okay. And then bring your hands to prayer. Inhale here. As you exhale, start to press your left palm forward and twist to the right. Now your right hand might stay here. You might press the right hand behind you. Now check. That left knee wants to sneak forward. Bring it back in line. Let the twist just be in the upper body. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, twist opposite side. Right palm presses forward. Left palm presses back. Check in with the knees. Inhale, center. And then stand it up. Shake it out a little bit. Let's do it once more. Either feet touching or feet hip width apart. Inhale, chair pose. Bring your hands to prayer. Okay. Inhale here. Exhale, twist to the right. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, twist to the left. And center, hips low, heart high, once more each side. And then stand it back up again, shake it out. Oh, a couple hip circles. And then come on back to the top edge of your mat. Feet hip width apart unless you prefer doing all of your practice with feet touching. And then inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky. Exhale, melt into your forward fold. Fingertips to shins, inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands, and on your inhale, step your right leg back. Gently lower your back knee to the floor or to a chip foam block or some padding. Grab your blocks, make sure they're handy, and then inhale, come up for half kneeling or low lunge. Now I'm going to turn to face you. Am I? No, yeah, I am. I'm going to switch around a bit today, which way I'm facing. So you don't need to switch. You stay where you are. There we go. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see my foot in this frame or not, but it doesn't matter. So back out of the hips, hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum on that right leg, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back, maintaining all that, shift forward into the front knee. All right, so we're going to start with that really active release of the hip flexors on the back leg. So the more you squeeze your bum on the back leg, the more you're going to open up into those hip flexors. Maybe you float the arms up to the sky. Maybe they start to reach down for blocks. Now, I'm trying to find my blocks in this really active position and I can't. So I'm going to sink a little bit deeper into that front knee, right? So we're going to go a bit deeper than we usually go in our low lunge. If you want to stay back in that active variation, stay where you need to be. Again, I'm just shifting, right? This is my active release. This is how much further down I have to get to find my blocks. Maybe doesn't look like much, but it feels like a big difference for me. Okay, on your exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg for half splits. Wrap the back hip forward, front hip back, belly button to spine. Now here, if you have a wall, you can use a wall for balance, or hands on hips, or maybe you have blocks, or maybe, your fingertips comfortably reach the earth. But I'd like you to try and keep, at least for the start, your spine long rather than rounding forward. Don't worry, we'll get there. Okay, peel those front toes back toward your face even more. Let's get into the calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. Little draw of belly button to spine, right? Every pose can be a core pose if you want. Last couple breaths here. Okay, on your next inhale, come back into that front knee. We're going to sink into low lunge, and this is where it might be useful to have something underneath your hands. Squeeze the bum on the back leg, and then exhale, shift the hips back as you extend through the front leg, half splits. Maybe this time you bow over top of the leg. Inhale, rock forward, low lunge. Exhale, rock back, half splits. So maybe you have hands on hips or a hand on the wall. Maybe you've got your fingertips on the floor, or maybe you're using blocks. Go where you need to go. Let's do another full 2 rounds. And then the next time that you come forward, pause there. Maybe you back out of the hips a little bit. Maybe you sink a bit deeper. Bring your right hand to the floor, more or less in line with your front heel. And on your inhale, open the left arm up to the sky. Screw drive, or imagine that you're like corkscrewing rather, that bottom shoulder onto your back. Top arm right, stay still, or you might take big sweeping shapes. Keep squeezing the bum on the back leg. Keep wrapping that front hip back. You might choose to tuck the back toes and take this into a twisted high lunge if you wish. And then slowly come back to center, back out of the hips a little bit. And then we'll switch legs. So maybe you step forward, take a little wiggle, bounce, or sway. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. And then let's switch sides. So on your inhale, step your left leg back. Release your knee to the earth or to your chip foam block or whatever it is that you're using. And then inhale, come up to half kneeling. Now again, if you want to do that active variation for the start, back out of the hips, hug the legs toward each other, squeeze your bum, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on the back, and then shift forward. Back toes could be tucked or untucked, right? Really starting to get into those hip flexors. So squeezing the bum, because we're going to take this opportunity at the start to stretch. And then when we start to flow in and out of these poses, you have less opportunity to get into a stretch. It's more about movement. Maybe the arms float up. Maybe they come to blocks. Wherever you need to go, keep squeezing the bum on that back leg. Okay, on your exhale, start to shift your hips back as you extend through your front leg for half splits. Again, maybe if you have a wall for balance, you can use a wall, or hands on hips. If you have blocks or your wine bottles, I should demo wine bottles one day. You can use those, maybe fingertips on the floor. And then wrap your left hip forward, draw your front hip back. And then peel those front toes back toward your face. Let's really get into those calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. Again, trying to stay with a long spine here if possible. So that might mean backing out of the depth, right? It's almost impossible for me these days to keep a spine long with my fingertips on the floor. I'm just really tight in my hamstrings. One more breath here. Okay, on your inhale, start to rock forward, back into that front knee, sink through the hips, low lunge. Exhale, shift your hips back, extending through the front leg. Half splits. Maybe you bow over this time. Maybe as we move here, you have hands on hips or on a wall. Maybe you have fingertips on the floor or on blocks. But now just really using this movement to lubricate the joints, particularly the knee and the hip, but also the ankle and the spine. Last few rounds here. Each time you come forward, make sure the chest is proud. Last time to exhale back. Inhale forward, pause there, and then bring your hands to the earth. If you wish to, tuck the back toes and step forward, standing forward folds. I realize that can be an awkward transition sometimes, so just do it however you need to. A little bounce, wiggle or sway, fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, full. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. Okay, release your arms. Shake it out a little bit. One last time, we're going to do some twisting in chair pose. You're like, oh, why? Why? We just release the legs. It'll be fine. It's just a quick little burner at the end. So again, maybe you choose to have the feet hip width apart. Maybe you want to take the feet touching. Doesn't matter today. I'm going to turn to face the opposite side so I don't bash my bookcase. Maybe I should just set up in a different place. I don't know. Maybe next video I'll set up in a random spot in the house. On your inhale, sit into your chair pose. So get the foundation, set up, weight back, tailbone down slightly, belly button to spine, hands in prayer to start with. Hug the legs toward each other, or if you're in feet hip width apart, send the knees out. Inhale here. Exhale, press the left palm forward, right palm back. Inhale back to center. Exhale, twist to the left. Keep the pelvis, the knees still. So the twist is just in the upper body. Once more each side. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, release. Forward fold. Heel and toe the feet apart if they're not already in hip width. And then for 3 breaths, inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it go. 2 more. Okay, bend your knees, plant your hands, come back to hands and knees. Little wiggle, shake, or cat and cow. And then shift your hips on one side. So you can swing around to a seated position. Maybe you choose to take a Pilates style roll down here, tucking the tailbone and slowly rolling down one vertebra to spine at a time rather. If you want to use your hands, but eventually make your way onto your back. And once you're down, hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. And let's end with a twist. So take your right arm out to the side. Maybe shift your hips right a little bit to start with. Exhale, lower the knees to the left. And this can be as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. The knees could be stacked. You could take a single leg twist. Maybe you bring a block underneath your knees or between them. Give yourself a little bit more space, a little bit more ease. Last couple breaths here. And on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe the hips shift left a little bit. And then exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And it can be a totally different variation from one side to the other, right? Even with twists. Breath slow and sweet. Last breath here. On your inhale, return to center. Now, if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to go there. Otherwise, start to find a pose of rest that'll work for you. It could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight. If you happen to have blocks, it can sometimes feel really delightful to bring the blocks behind your knees as you're lying down on the floor. I like to call it yoga lazy boy. Just gives a nice release for the low back. Maybe you choose to rest on your side or in child's pose or a seated meditation, wherever you have chosen to be. And there's certainly no rush to find that pose of rest. But once you're there, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Let go of your breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. So that with each exhale, your body melts a little bit deeper into the earth. And again, thoughts may come and go. Acknowledge them without judgment, but let them go. And return to your breath. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.